All right, everyone, I'll go ahead and get started. The time now is 7:01, and it is March 29th, 2021. This is the hearings meeting of the Springfield City Council. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll this evening?
Councilor Edwards.
Present.
Present. Councilor Letterman.
Present.
Present. Councilor Gomez.
Present.
Present. Councilor Allen. I know Councilor Allen was stepping away for a moment, so I'll call him again.
Thank you.
Councilor Curran, I'm sorry.
Present.
Present. Councilor Whitfield.
Here.
Here. Councilor Ramos.
Present.
Present. Councilor Brown.
Present.
Present. Councilor Walsh.
Present.
Present. Councilor Davila.
Present.
Present. Councilor Fenton.
Present.
Present. Councilor Hurst.
Present.
Present. Councilor Williams.
Present. Thank you, Madam Clerk. And Councilor Allen is available now.
Councilor Allen.
You're muted, Councilor.
Present. Thanks, Mr. President.
All right. Thank you, Madam Clerk. And prior to calling for our guests and councilors to rise for a moment of silence and Pledge of Allegiance, I just want to acknowledge that today is a National Vietnam War Veterans Day, and we certainly have a Vietnam vet and our colleague, Councilor Gomez. So I just want to, before we rise to, for a moment of silence, dedicate this moment of silence to those who have lost their lives in the Vietnam War and all other wars associated. So at this point, can we please rise for a moment of silence in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge of allegiance
To the flag
Of
of the United
States of America
and to the republic
Republic,
for which it
which
stands,
stands
one nation,
nation
under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice.
for all.
Thank you.
Thank you all. And I also want to share, I do have permission to share, and I know this is a bit more informal, but I'll do it anyway. I received a call this morning from Councilor Gomez, who had relayed that he had received, because of today and the momentous occasion that today brings, a call from the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, to congratulate him on his first, of course, becoming a city councilor, but also for his years in service, serving this great country. So I know, again, this is informal, and if there is no objection, I just wanted to allow Councilor Gomez to just give us a little tidbit of that conversation and what it meant to him.
Thank you, Mr. President, for giving me this opportunity to share with you a great honor. I was selected one out of all Vietnam veterans in Massachusetts to be called by the Vice President. It was one hell of a call in my life. Thank you to the senators that worked on this and recommended me to be called by her. Now, I explained to her because she asked me on how we are dealing with the pandemic here in Springfield and how our monies are coming through. I expressed to her what we are doing now in the city in bringing those vaccines into the neighborhoods to our people who are kind of afraid to leave their homes, especially elderly in the minority communities. And I explained to her that by doing this, we had people coming out and getting vaccinated. I also told her that we are receiving our dollars, but not fast enough. People are questioning where is their dollars that they're supposed to receive, because not everybody's getting them fast enough. We talked about the services that we provide here in Springfield concerning veterans, the facilities that I run for homeless and needy veterans, and she was super impressed with what we're doing here, to the point that she asked me to keep her number, and if I needed to contact her office at any time. Also left the door open for a possible visit from her in Western Massachusetts. So they know about us, they know what we're doing at the White House. So I guess we need to continue to do what we're doing best, and that is taking care of our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gomez. And I think I'll speak on behalf of the council in saying that it's great news. And please feel free to keep us in the loop if there's any other developments or things that we can do to assist you in your efforts. Appreciate that. Madam Clerk, can you please call the first item on the agenda?
The first item on the agenda is a petition for Wellington Street.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there anyone present to speak to this petition? Councilor Brown?
Thank you, Mr. President. If I'm correct, this is about changing that sign. This is for Miss Enid Moore. She's a very nice lady who's from the area, been there her whole life, and it was a mistake in the first place. She's looking to have a handicap sign put there for herself.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Is there anyone else present to speak on behalf of the petition? All right, seeing none, are there any questions or comments from the council at this time?
I'm sorry, but Mr. President, if I
Yes,
may.
Councilor Edwards, yes.
I need to recuse myself on this particular petition. I wasn't aware until the name was mentioned. Miss Enid Moore is my aunt, my father's sister, so I'm going to recuse myself on this issue.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards. Madam Clerk, can you please have the record reflect that? Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from council at this time?
And if I may,
Councilor,
Council
yes.
President, I would get in trouble if I didn't mention that she's an excellent organ player for her choir, and she dedicates her time and effort. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Councilor Walsh?
Thank you, Mr. President. I certainly have no objections, but I wonder, is this something that has come through the Traffic Commission?
Yes, it's been through, and the Adrian Osborne from the neighborhood council president, the neighborhood council president went by. She filled out the necessary paperwork. This is something she's been trying to get done for years.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad it's finally happening, but usually there's, at our meetings, we have someone from the Traffic Commission make the presentation, but as long as it gets done and everybody approves, I guess we can let it go this time.
Thank you, Councilor Walsh. Are there any other questions or comments from the council at this time? Again, are there any other questions or comments from councils at this time? All right, seeing none, typically we would take this as a voice vote, but because we are virtual, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on this petition?
On accepting the petition, Councilor Edwards, recused. Councilor Letterman,
Yes.
yes. Councilor Gomez, Councilor Gomez,
You're on mute.
You're muted, Councilor.
Yes.
yes. Councilor Allen,
Yes.
yes. Councilor Curran,
Yes.
yes. Councilor Whitfield,
Yes.
yes. Councilor Ramos,
Yes.
yes. Councilor Brown,
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Walsh?
Yes,
Yes. Counselor Davila?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Hurst?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Williams?
Yes, the petition has been accepted. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Counselors, just as a matter of housekeeping, for some reason I am unable to lower your hand in the queue. So if you could just do that for yourselves, I would appreciate that. Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you please call the next item on the agenda?
The next item on the agenda is a petition for the Springfield Museums.
Thank you. Is there anyone present to speak on this petition? Counselor Fenton.
Mr. President, just before, I don't know who we have to speak on this museum item, but just on the last item,
Yes.
there was only the Wellington Street item on the agenda, but when you look in the packet, there was like another 5 sign regulations that were cited, mostly for no parking in different areas across the city, Long Hill Street, etc. There's only one in my district, which I'm aware of and I'm okay with. So I'm fine with approving it tonight, and that's the one on Stevens Street. But I just wanted to make sure that we were clear whether or not that vote was to just approve the Wellington Street sign changes or all the other ones that are included in the packet.
Thank you, Counselor Fenton. Madam Clerk, can you shed light on that? I know that the item for Wellington, I believe, is explicitly mentioned in the agenda. Would that vote just be pertaining to that particular item, or the other 4 or 5 in conjunction?
It would only be that item.
Okay, so I would imagine that those would appear at a later time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Right, is there anyone else present to speak on the next item? Again, I will ask, is there anyone present to speak on this item? Right, seeing none, if there's no objection at this time, I will move for a roll call vote to accept the petition.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I've reviewed the petition for the Springfield Museums, but I'm just curious why there's no one to speak on either of the petitions.
Your guess is just as good as mine, Counselor. Typically the agenda will be sent to those who would have to represent. I know we've approved petitions in the past with no one present. So I was just continuing in that manner.
Sure. All right, Mr. I understand, Mr. President. I don't want to hold up the petitions. I just think, Mr. President, if you might check in with the Traffic Commission and let them know, it would be helpful for them in the future to be present.
Definitely. Thank you, Counselor Levin.
Thank you, sir.
Counselor Walsh? You're muted, Counselor.
and just refreshing our memory about what the petition is before we vote on it for the museum.
Sure, Madam Clerk, do you mind reading the agenda item?
Now therefore be it ordered that due care for public safety is exercised during construction, including but not limited to the use of a police officer for traffic control if necessary, that said construction would not unnecessarily interfere with the movement of vehicular or pedestrian traffic in the area, that care be taken during said construction not to damage any underground services, that the construction site be returned to the same condition as found or better. With regards to install guide signs at exit I-291 on Armory Street.
Thank you.
Councilor Walsh. Are there any other questions or comments? Councilor Fenton and Councilor Allen, do you mind just lowering your hand if you do not have a question, please? I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, Madam Clerk, you can call the roll, please, then.
On accepting the petition, Councilor Letterman?
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry. Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Letterman?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Gomez?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Allen?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Karen?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Ramos?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Brown?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Davila?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Hurst?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Williams?
Yes, the petition has been accepted. Madam Clerk, do you mind please calling the next item on the agenda?
The next item on the agenda is to amend an existing special permit, drive-up service window at 809 Boston Road.
All right, is there anyone present to speak to this special permit?
Yes, good evening.
Could you please state your name and address for the record, please?
Certainly, James Cranston, Bowler Engineering, 352 Turnpike Road, Southborough, Mass. Good evening, Mr. President and councilors. I'm representing McDonald's this evening for this application. We are proposing some modifications to the existing site drive-through. I'm happy to share a screen if you're interested in seeing the existing and proposed plan. Otherwise, I can just summarize what we're looking to do.
Feel free to, Jim. I believe you have sharing capabilities, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, thank you. Can everybody see the plan here?
Yep.
Perfect. So the existing site has a tandem inline drive-through configuration with two existing digital menu boards. They're basically one in front of the other. Those are the two red features shown on this plan. And then there's one digital pre-browse board, which is what's shown in orange. That configuration where one menu board's in front of the other, while it worked back in the day, it's just not as efficient as their current prototypical drive-through for better efficiency. So what we're proposing is a side-by-side drive-through. Right now I'm looking at a proposed plan showing the changes. And what we're doing is we're eliminating 12 parking spaces from the property and reconfiguring the drive-through. And you'll essentially have two menu boards side by side. And that allows customers to place an order while another drive-through is potentially held up due to a longer order, or kids in the car who might not know what they want to eat. In this configuration, they're going to reuse the same digital menu boards that are out there now, as well as that pre-browse. So we're adding basically one additional pre-browse, which are the orange features here. The sites would still comply with zoning as far as it relates to the number of parking spaces, and the queuing of the drive-through will be improved due to this new configuration.
Great, thank you, Mr. Cranston. Madam Clerk, have we received any testimony in favor of this special permit?
We have not. I'm not certain if no, we have not received anything that wants the petition.
Okay. Well, then in that case, seeing none, have we received any testimony that is in opposition of this special permit?
We have.
Do you mind please reading that into the record?
It's quite lengthy, so just counselors, if you can bear with me. To whom it may concern, it's dated March 26, 2021. To whom it may concern, my name is Erica Headley. I am the owner of 11 and 13 Etna Court that abuts 809 Boston Road, also known as McDonald's. I received a letter requesting my presence to discuss a special permit to extend the McDonald's drive-through to create another drive-through lane for ordering. I am to understand this will most likely extend the business much closer to my property to enable the business to take more orders and collect more revenue. I have lived at my home for over 20 years. Throughout that time, my quality of life has been constantly affected by this business. From the time I wake up until the time I go to sleep, I have to hear the noise that comes along with the 24-hour drive-through in my yard. Loud music, screaming customers, trash, drain, and sewer issues, just to name a few. I am not able to enjoy my yard due to customers of that location coming to the side of the property and using the bathroom on the fence or using the back corner of the parking lot for illegal activity. The back of the location is used as a hangout and people use drugs and leave their paraphernalia on the ground that comes under the fence and into my yard. That is a major concern when my 5-year-old daughter picks up a used hypodermic needle next to the fence. Over the years, my family has been fined by the city of Springfield for trash that gets blown under the fence by McDonald's maintenance workers. I feel it is not my fault or created by me and shouldn't be my responsibility. But once it's under the fence, it's now my trash in the eyes of the city. Picking up several trash bags of garbage every 2 weeks is uncalled for when it's not even from my family. When I called McDonald's about this matter, they directed me to the corporate office. After discussing this with corporate, they advised I would hear from someone at this location, and I never did. No more yard cleanup takes hours when you have to take care of another person's garbage. This is a family home that has been passed down from generation to generation over the past 50 years. It is not just a complaint. This is our family's home, and now this large corporation is trying to take more of our peace of mind and make even more money while we work and scrape to pay our bills and taxes while listening to their 24-hour-a-day parking lot concerts and picking up their garbage. My 5-year-old daughter is woken up multiple times at night due to the disturbances of McDonald's. Previous tenants were unable to sleep and have moved out due to these disturbances. I have called this location multiple times when this happens, begging to ask the person at the window to please keep it down or to make a sign that says, please keep radio down. I have seen these at other McDonald's locations that are located near homes and nothing changes. The same issues persist. After the 2007 special permit, I was awoken to my street being torn up and being used as an access point to reconstruct. My plumbing was disturbed at the time and has never been the same since. I get constant sand and clogging. Every 4 months, my home begins to smell like rotten meat from my drains. It also happens to my neighbor at 6 Etna Court. When the Water and Sewer Commission came to assess the issue, I was told by the head of the project that he has been the main person working on our drain and sewer system for over 20 years. He stated that McDonald's employees pour grease and flush dirty towels down their drains, and he and his crew have to come fix it all the time. I was told they only receive a small fine, but my neighbors and my family are the ones that pay the price. Every time they have to fix it, they send down a machine that backs up all my drawers and sends sewer water back out of my drains and into my home and onto the floors. I was told by them to get a lawyer and ask McDonald's to pay cleaning bill. I again called to corporate to discuss the situation and was told someone would get back to me, and again, nothing. I've spent thousands of dollars on products and plumbers. The smell still wakes us at 5 a.m. and stays in the house for 24 hours, no matter how many windows you open or candles you burn. You are now asking me to give up what little I have left of my family's comfort for one of the biggest companies in the world. I am expected to personally and legally argue a giant real estate company that has a senior attorney at their disposal to keep my home as comfortable as possible and was given minimal lead time and limited information on what was being planned. I had to call the city of Springfield to obtain that information. I have video from my home camera showing a surveyor in my yard taking measurements without even announcing himself. When asked what he was doing in my yard, he told me he didn't know. When further questioned, he said he was looking for markers. At what point do I even have any rights in my own yard? When I walk out of my front door, the first thing I see is McDonald's. I can already see the illuminated menu and spotlights that pour into my windows. I honestly could probably order McDonald's from my front porch with ease. How much closer should this drive-through be before it is in my daughter's bedroom? I do not agree to anything that brings the business any closer to my property than it already is. I refuse any special permit incited by McDonald's real estate company that includes any changes to my property line or deed. Sincerely, Erica Headley, President, 1113 Etna Court, Springfield, Mass. 01119.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Was there any other opposition received?
There was no further opposition received.
All right, at this time, are there any questions from the petitioner from the council, for the petitioner? Councilor Letterman.
Can you take the screen down?
Yes, please, Mr. Cranston, feel free to. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Jim, what's your position with the company?
We are the civil engineer. We've been hired to help design and entitlement the project all the way through building permitting for McDonald's.
Okay. Is there any other representative of the petitioner here, or is it only yourself?
Tonight, it is just myself.
Okay, so the situation we've got here, Jim, is that I don't necessarily know that there's a problem with an additional drive-through lane. As a matter of fact, I think that reducing the queue could be positive. But
Excuse me, Councilor Letterman.
But relative to the testimony that we just received, the property owner is almost certainly in violation of their previous special permit if the testimony is accurate. So we are certainly going to need to hear from the property owner prior to a vote on this. Almost every special permit that we approve for a drive-through is very clear that the drive-through cannot be audible to the abutters, and has strict rulings around litter and noise from the driveways. And that does come into play with a second drive-through lane. So I know we won't be voting tonight, but I would strongly advise that the petitioner have their representative present at the next meeting who can speak to their current compliance with their special permit regulations. And Phil, if you could forward to us the conditions from their 2007 permit, we'll need that as well.
Thank you, Councilor Letterman. Councilor Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, I agree with my colleague, Councilor Letterman, on his comments. There are several concerns with that letter. I know that we're voting on a special permit regarding a drive-through. However, this letter raises a lot of concerns. I'm looking at the 2007, and there's certainly a violation of condition number 12, which says that the site shall be maintained free of all weeds and trash and debris. If what the letter states is in fact true, then they are at the very least in violation of that condition. And condition number 13, which states that all landscaped areas, including the public tree belt, shall be maintained by the petitioner. If the letter is true, again, they're not adhering to those conditions. So yes, I think at the very least, we need to hear from the owner of the property. We need to hear from someone that can address these conditions before we take any action on the special permit. And I think that the abutter should be given the opportunity to hear from the petitioner. Typically when there's a request for a special permit, there is a neighborhood council meeting, and then at that point, the petitioner can be in the same room with the abutters. The abutters are notified, etc. I don't know if that ever happened. I don't know if they've ever had any communication. It doesn't sound from the letter that that's happened. But the abutters do deserve the courtesy of being in the same room, or virtually at least, with the petitioner before we can take any action on this. So I would encourage for that to happen before our next meeting, and I would encourage the owner or actual representative from the ownership to be here for the next meeting before we take a vote.
Thank you, Councilor Ramos. And again, please, councilors, put your hands down if you are not trying to speak, as I cannot control when they are lowered. Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to just reiterate with what my colleagues, Councilman Letterman and Councilman Ramos, are speaking about. I would really stress to the owner, though, on just my personal point of view, I would just stress for him to try his due diligence to make it right with the abutter. I believe if there's any discrepancies, not any, but if there's any, if the actual people in the neighborhood are upset, I just really don't see myself supporting anything like that. So I would just say, it sounds like a great project. I would just want the owner just to try to go and make things right with the people in the neighborhood. At least speak with them and just try to come to a happy medium, work things out. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just for clarification, can I have the address of the abutter that filed that disturbing letter?
It's 11-13 Etna, ETNA Court.
The court. Oh, thank you. I don't see, Mr. President, I don't see anything on the agenda from the Civic Association or the neighborhood councils. Did they meet with the respective councils association there?
I would have to ask Mr. Cranston on.
Yes, please.
Are you aware of any meetings that taking place with the neighborhood?
So we did reach out to Pine Point Community Council back in November, shared the plans, and they met and reviewed everything, and they took no exception to anything that was proposed. John is the gentleman who responded. I don't have his last name, but we did submit, and at that time there were no concerns or issues. So I don't know how he communicates the application with the community, but we did go through that process and coordinated that with Phil Drami before we filed.
Okay, because I don't see anything on the agenda. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Fenton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I won't go over the points that were made earlier by my colleagues very eloquently. I would just point out to Bowler, Mr. Cranston, on the, what street side is this? On the Wilkes Street side of the property where you're creating the double lane, you're eliminating about a half a dozen parking spaces or so. Is that right?
Correct. 12 spaces we're losing.
12 spaces. And the remaining spaces are sufficient to comply with the zoning requirements for parking?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you. My only two requests would be that the petitioner, before they come back with a representative from McDonald's, explore two requests. The first is that they evaluate converting the lighting for the parking lot to dark sky compliant lighting to avoid light pollution. I don't know if that's currently being utilized. Is it, Mr. Cranston?
I'm not familiar with the type of lighting that's out there.
All right, just have them take a look at it before they come back and see if they can convert it to dark sky lighting. And then with respect to the fencing, there's a pretty frumpy looking existing wooded picket fence. And on your plans, it says to remain. I would request that fence be replaced with an 8-foot tall white vinyl around the perimeter of the property. That would be my feedback.
Thank you, Councilor Fenton. Councilor Walsh.
And I'm in total agreement with my colleagues who feel uncomfortable voting on this issue tonight. And I wonder, is it possible to have a meeting of the Economic Development Committee with the petitioner and with the resident whose quality of life is being interrupted, or has there already been one? Because I know I would not feel comfortable voting on this issue till we know both sides.
Thank you, Councilor Walsh. Councilor Hurst.
Thank you, Mr. President. I actually think that speaks to the importance of having the individual who is in opposition to this special permit present. I'd like to hear their testimony in this hearing. And so I don't know whether we've made any adjustments to whether we're going to allow that, but I think if they are not present, or at least having been offered the opportunity to be present, then I will be voting against this special permit. I think it's imperative. I think it automatically gives the advantage, which I've said before, to the individual coming before us seeking a petition. And I think when you have issues as significant as the ones that are highlighted in this letter, they need to be present to address those issues and certainly rebut any testimony that is given at our next hearing. And if they're not here, I can't see how I can support this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. I didn't know if I was next because all the hands are up, but I appreciate it. And I agree with every single comment that all of my colleagues made. There's no way I can support this without hearing from the opposition. There's no way I can support this with just the owners not being present or someone who represents the establishment. Those complaints were horrendous. I wouldn't want anyone to live like that. And so I want to make sure that they are doing the right thing by the resident, because that's really, really just not a good way to have to live as somewhere where you bought your home or your property, or even if you're renting and living there. And so my only question is to Phil, because I think that it needs a new fence as well, but do they have, is that a legal size, an 8-foot fence?
I was gonna mention that. I believe an 8-foot fence would trigger the need for a special permit because it's a
Right.
residential district, but
Yeah, I was thinking it was a 6-foot fence, then they wouldn't need a special permit?
yeah, a 6-foot fence is allowed. Anything over an 8-foot fence, I believe. Again, I'd have to double check the zoning, but I believe because it abuts a residential district, it would trigger a special permit. But I can check that out and get back before the next meeting.
Thank you very much.
If I may, just Mr. President on that.
Sure, Councilor Fenton, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Whitfield. And yeah, Phil, if you could follow up on that. My intent, obviously we'll defer to you on how to enforce the ordinance, but my intent would be that we have the authority to grant the permit for the 8-foot fence. So I was hoping that we could kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And if we made it a condition, that could be a part of the special permit. But you can report back to us on that at the next.
I'll check.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield.
You're welcome. Let's kill it.
Thank you, Councilor Fenton. I'm seeing Councilor Davila.
No, my apologies. I put my hand down, Mr. President.
Okay. Councilor Gomez.
Yes. I'm in agreement with all my colleagues on this issue. The letter, even though it's well written, but we don't have a face behind that letter, and we don't have a voice. And it makes it different when you're able to look at an individual when that individual is making a statement. And I'll definitely concur in bringing those individuals to testify on what they have put in paper. And my question concerning the fence, what will 2 additional feet of fence will do for the property that a 6 feet will not do?
Thank you, Councilor Gomez. I'll pass that over to Mr. Cranston.
So I just want to start by saying, all of these concerns are definitely alarming. It's unfortunate we weren't aware of these sooner. And again, we're not in touch with the operator of the facility, so I'm not sure what's happened over time, but we certainly want to dig into this and make it right. So we'll go back to our client and make them aware of the concerns, and we'll definitely stress that they need to be at the next meeting. Relative to getting the abutter at the next meeting, I'm not sure who can help spearhead that, because I want to make sure it's productive.
Thank you. Councilor Brown, did you have a comment, or were you all set?
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. I basically would like to still maybe defer to some of my colleagues to see basically is getting it into maybe my committee. I can go and try to find, I'll go and try to reach out to, if I can get the abutter's address, I'll go and try to reach out and find her. What would be the process? Is there a process where I could just put it in my committee and find the individual and go through that process, as like Councilor Walsh had suggested?
President Williams, do you mind if I speak?
Sure, Attorney.
So the item can't go to committee because the hearing has already been opened, but because to avoid any improprieties or anything like that, I can reach out to the abutter to make sure that she is present and aware of the next hearing. So there's no communication with the abutter and the council prior to the hearing date, but I'll take that on and make sure that she's present if she'd like to be.
Okay. Thank you, Tessina. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Counselor. Thank you, Madam Clerk. At this time, are there any other questions for the petitioner from members of the council? I'll ask, are there any other questions? All right, seeing none at this time, I will entertain.
And Marcus, I'm sorry.
Counselor Edwards.
Respectfully, Attorney Davis, is it possible for you to send a copy of that letter from the abutter directly to the president of the neighborhood council? Would that be inappropriate?
Yes, I can. No, that's not inappropriate. I can make sure I do that, Counselor Edwards.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Counselor Edwards. Are there any other questions? All right, seeing none. At this time, can I please have a motion to continue this item until the next regular meeting on April 5th?
So be it.
All right, motion made by Counselor Gomez. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor, just say Counselor first. And that, all right, appreciate that. Can you please call the roll to continue this item?
On the motion to continue, Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Letterman?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Gomez?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Allen?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Curran?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Whitfield?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Counselor Ramos?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Brown?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Davila?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Hurst?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Williams?
Yes, the special permit is continued until the next regular meeting. Madam Clerk, can you please call the next item on the agenda?
The next item on the agenda is for special permit for Motorcle vehicle sales and service at 140 Corando Drive.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there anyone present to speak to this item?
Yes, Mr. President, I'm John Furman. I'm the Director of Land Development for VHB, engineering firm in the city of Springfield. And the attorney for the project and the owner are actually with us as well. We'll let them introduce themselves.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. President, City Council members. I'm Sean McCormick from Davis Malm, here with John and my
Could you just state
client.
your address for the record, please, too?
It's 1 Boston Place, Boston.
Thank you.
So I'm here with Mr. Furman and my client, Tony Batalla from Sterile Solutions. We're here for a special permit for an auto dealership, but as you'll hear, it's not really your typical auto dealership. It's dealing with converting ambulances and trailers with specialized medical equipment. And I think I'm going to turn it over to Tony in a second. I'll start or end by just saying we did attend the meeting of the East Springfield Neighborhood Council earlier in the month. It was, I think, a good meeting. I see some faces who were present. The neighbors seemed supportive of the project. There was one suggestion for a limitation on the number of vehicles stored outside on the property. I believe that suggestion made it into the city planner's recommendation, and that is a condition that we are able and happy to accept. And so with that, I think I'll let Tony speak a little bit more about the company and exactly the business that is proposed to operate at the site.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. My name is Tony Battaglia, and our address is at Sterile Solutions, 140 Corando Drive, Suite 2 in Springfield. Thank you, Mr. President and Council, for giving us the time to discuss our special permitting request. Just a brief overview of Sterile Solutions. We are a point of care, point of use waste remediation provider, meaning regulated medical waste, instead of being picked up and hauled off and incinerated, as it's atypical today. We have been producing a system since 2014 that remediates waste real time at the point of use, at the point of care. And prior to Sterile Solutions taking over the property at 140 Corando Drive, we were subcontracting the work out to a third-party company that was leasing the property at 140 Corando Drive. Sterile Solutions, upon hearing about this, decided to take over the factory. We have locations in Chicago as well as Boxborough, Massachusetts, and we decided to preserve the current workers that were at 140 Corando Drive and had been building our product right along, and we decided to bring them on our payrolls to continue to build the product at that location. Since the pandemic occurred, and with all of the virtual and mobilization of different services and products that have been made available to help with the pandemic, we've come up with a concept where we're able to take our waste remediation system and integrate it within retired ambulances or retired SWAT vehicles, trailers. Typically, we've been building these units outside of 140 Corando Drive, but we have gotten a big request from our current customers that are utilizing the system to be able to go remote. So COVID test locations, COVID vaccination locations, flu shots, just to name a few, have come up, and they would like us to provide mobilized solutions in utilizing our technology. That being said, we are looking to be able to build these systems, or a full turnkey model, if you will, where we purchase a 20-foot trailer and we modify it as a laboratory and add the equipment to it here at the 140 location. To Sean's point, Attorney McCormick, had made a comment about meeting with the neighborhood council. We did do that. They've made a request not to have multiple trailers or vehicles parked in the parking spaces, and we readily agreed to that. Keep in mind that our present facility previously to this was a windshield company location before the subcontractor took over the lease to build our product. And at that time, the building already has the necessary conditions set up where it can house multiple vehicles inside. So we're never going to be a dealership where we're going to build to inventory, build to stock. We are a custom build to order type of organization. And that is the solution that we're providing our current customers today.
Mr. President, John Furman, VHB. If possible, I could share my screen and show a site plan. I can see a lot of faces trying to figure out where this is, maybe look at it. So maybe a plan would be in order to walk through access where the site actually is.
Go for it.
All right, so VHB prepared a site plan package for to support the application, and you're basically looking at the plan that we generated from record documentation and field visits there. What you're looking at here is 140 Corando Drive, and the area in the middle highlighted here is the approximate leased area, which is about 8,770 square feet. If anyone has gone out to the site and looked there, the parking area is all the parking spaces are worn off. So what we did is we superimposed the buildings and the curb lines, and we laid out where people were parking from aerial photos to duplicate a parking plan, which you can see here. And we did that because we wanted to see if we had enough parking on site to support this business. So up in the corner of the site plan, we have the parking summary that we did. To determine the requirements, we identified all the uses that were in 140 and 150 Corando Drive, with this one motor vehicle repair being the new one. So the total of these three businesses generates 73 parking spaces. And what we have identified within the building, just between these two spaces, is the 73 spaces. However, in talking with the actual landowner, there is the ability to park about 20 or 30 vehicles in back here as well. This is all paved. And then this is a gravel area, which is also used as parking. So the summary is that there is plenty of available parking for the site for this space and for the existing. The access is from an existing curb cut from Corando Drive. You can access it and drive around to this other building here, but most of the activity will be in this area here. There is a second curb cut for this building to the rear, and this is where there will be some storage trailers that will be put to house some of the materials that will be used. There's an overhead door and a man door on the back of the building, so this will be a busy activity. With respect to the neighborhood committee meeting and some of the comments we heard, the main core of the business is the modification of the vehicles, and they would like the ability to sell a vehicle if the opportunity arises, either one that they buy, fit out, and then specialize it, or order new from a client. But it's not the main purpose of the business. I think the turnaround time for a vehicle once it comes in the business and then leaves, I believe, was somewhere around 48 hours. So they're not sitting around here very long. The other thing to make clear is that the term medical waste has been kind of talked about in this presentation. And we just to make it clear that at no time is there any medical waste entering this property. What this business is doing is creating the mechanism to deal with that medical waste, which is being used by whoever buys that vehicle. So this is really just an automobile for ambulance, specialty emergency vehicles, kind of an auto shop type of place. And as far as traffic goes, we've done a quick traffic study for the site. We've analyzed the existing space that was there, and using the Institute of Transportation Engineers, we've estimated that existing space had about 100 vehicles per weekday. The new one generates about 238 by the same ITE code. So the new trips are about 138 for the day. And during the morning peak hour, that generates to about 15 trips per day. But it's less than what was existing because the other use generated more traffic than this one did. So we have very negative impact on the roadways as a result of this project. And there was a comment about the number of vehicles to be sold, where they would be. And Sean has already talked about that number and being agreeable to it. So I think that is really what we have to offer for you.
All right, appreciate that. Madam Clerk, have we received any testimony from anyone in favor of this special permit?
We have not.
All right, and seeing none, have we received any testimony for those in opposition of this special permit?
We have not.
All right, are there any questions for the petitioner from council at this time? Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just had two quick questions. How many employees do you have at that site? How many employees do you have?
Sure. Currently, we have 6 employees that we retained from the previous subcontractor, and we plan to hire another 6 by the end of this summer, based on this business pickup.
And where do the 6? Where are they? Are they residents of Springfield?
Yes, they are. As a matter of fact, I've worked on this particular street in Western Mass since 1994. And many of these employees were former colleagues of mine at a previous employment, also on Carando Drive.
Okay, thank you. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. Quick questions. I'm gonna say, how many employees do you see you have there now?
We have 6 currently. We plan to hire another 6 by the end of the summer.
Okay. Would you mind giving me refresher in my memory? I didn't quite get what you said about medical waste.
Sure. So today, locations like your doctor's offices or hospitals or surgery centers, anytime you go in and you're treated, you generate what's called regulated medical waste, whether it's a red bag, like your PPE that you see today with the COVID pandemic and you see everybody wearing, or they generate sharps, which are typically your, for lack of better words, opioids, needles where they're doing injections, vaccinations, drug shots, things of that nature. So today, in most of these locations, in order to dispose of that waste, it's a process that's called incineration, where manifests are generated. You call a company to come and pick up the waste. It goes off to an incineration center and it's burned off, creating all sorts of carcinogens into the atmosphere. Our system is a green-friendly remediation system that steam sterilizes that waste, renders it completely harmless, and then shreds it to about 80% of its actual original volume. So it's a much more user-friendly system. You're not keeping waste on site for our customers, and you're remediating the waste real time. You're not affecting the environment by creating harmful carcinogens into the atmosphere with incineration. So we provide a box. Basically, it's about the size of a Xerox system that you would find in a high volume office. It stands about 4 feet tall, 3 feet wide, 2 feet deep, and it remediates the waste real time for our clients.
Thank you for that. Another question is, you said a traffic study, and I see that there's a traffic study done here, that there will be minimal impact in the traffic pattern. But you said you're going to be potentially bringing ambulances, trailers. Are they going to be either reconditioned there to the specs and then shipped out to the location? So are there going to be any big trailers in and out of that location? How are you going to move the product back and forth?
Great question, Councilman. Currently today, there is semi-tractor trailers that come in and out of that facility and have been for years with the previous tenant. We also have a Lewis and Clark right next door to us that gets the same semi type of truck deliveries maybe a couple of times a week. What we're talking about here is we'll take delivery of a trailer or an ambulance to be modified, 2 or 3 of them per month. They get retrofitted within a 48, 72-hour time frame and then get shipped back out the door and driven off the property. So the amount of supply chain traffic, as I'll call it, is minimal. Where it currently already sees that same traffic with standard deliveries that we get to the facility.
Right, but is that supply chain traffic, as you call it, are they going to be on a trailer or are they going to be drivable themselves?
So trailers, if we're modifying what we'll call a trailer for a mobile lab, those will be driven to the facility and put inside of the building to be modified. So that's what I'm referring to. We'd have 2 or 3 of those a month.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, you're saying that there will be no trailers, how can I phrase it? No 18-wheeler trailers, no big rigs going in and out.
That's correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
I asked because that location, even though it's an industrial park location, it's an excellent location. It's also, as you know, very close to the highway, which is very attractive, but also it has Carter Street, it has Berkshire Avenue on the other side, which are very, very busy streets in the city. Well, that's all my questions for that. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Beltran.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Fenton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just wanted to thank the applicant for their presentation and the accommodation of that condition that was requested at the neighborhood council meeting. And I'm in support of this project, as is the East Springfield Neighborhood Council.
Thank you, Councilor Fenton. Councilor Allen.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. President. One question or two here. So could you tell me, I just got lost a little bit with these. So you retrofit or you fix vehicles that people can then take away or buy or whatever. And secondly, you also have this system of doing a better job of disposing of the needles that you find. Is it two really business functions going on here?
Yes, so to clarify, this property and location has been a light manufacturing location for our Sterile Solutions remediation system, the waste remediator as it remediates medical waste. So it's been building the smaller or the smaller size type of system that we've been referring to. What we're proposing or asking the council is for special permitting that now allows us to take that same exact existing system and retrofit it into either a retired ambulance, swap vehicle, a towable trailer, so that our solution can be brought to point of use locations, such as the test location at the Eastfield Mall is a perfect example. So all of those test swabs that were performed there during this pandemic and continues to be done there, that waste is being picked up by a hauler, creating the possibility of additional spread of COVID-19 by moving it and transporting it versus remediating it at the time of the collection. That's the difference that our solution brings to the table.
Gotcha. Okay. And have you done some of this at that site already, or is this a new business process? Or
so we've prototyped a couple of them as we sit here and speak today, as well as we've retrofitted them in the field at customer locations. And
Okay.
we've been approached by some of our other communities that we do business with, such as the town of Acushnet, the town of Plymouth, Sandwich, Massachusetts, just to name a few. They've asked us to provide a mobilized remediation solution where they can introduce it into their community and have drive-up vaccines, point-of-care vaccinations available to elderly, where they're driving from home to home and delivering vaccines and then remediating those vaccines real time from a regulated medical waste perspective so that there's zero footprint.
excellent. Okay, thanks. That helped me, that description. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. I would just again remind councilors to please put your hands down if you are finished asking questions. Are there any other questions from the council at this time? And I will ask, are there any other questions from the council at this time? Seeing none, I will now entertain a motion for this item to be continued to our next regular meeting.
So be it.
Second.
Motion has been made by Councilor Davila, seconded by Councilor Whitfield. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on continuing this item to the next meeting?
On the motion to continue, Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Letterman?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Gomez?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Allen?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Curran?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Ramos?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Brown?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Davila?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Hurst?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Williams?
Yes, the item has been continued. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Can you please call the next item on the agenda?
The next item on the agenda is for a special permit to operate a junkyard at 255 Liberty Street.
Thank you. Is there anyone present to speak to this special permit? If so, please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mr. President. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And members of the council, my name is Rayford Pellegrino. I have law office 265 State Street here in Springfield, and I represent the applicant, Pick and Pull, in regards to this request for a special permit. I can briefly summarize the project, and then I'm happy to entertain any questions. I did circulate through the City Council office a PowerPoint presentation. I'm sure many of you have had a chance to see it. Some of what I'm saying will be a little bit repetitive, so I'll try not to be too repetitive for you. I'm excited to present this project because I think it's a real opportunity, exciting opportunity for the city of Springfield. Schnitzer Steel is a Fortune 1000 company traded in NASDAQ and has a division, an auto parts division known as Pick and Pull, the applicant. The site we're talking about is a lot of people know it if I say the old Buddy Roy site. It's the site behind the former Registry of Motor Vehicles building, and it has access both from Chestnut and Liberty Street. It's situated along the railroad track. So it's really a hidden property. It's very difficult to see if you're on Liberty or on Chestnut. Its historic use was the Buddy Roy junkyard and then a tractor trailer school. So there was, quite a number of tractor trailers there in the immediate recent past. This Pick and Pull is a company that is a green company. It's environmentally sound. And what they do is they come in and they offer a service both to the residents and also provide an opportunity for jobs for the community. And they take automobiles, they bring them on site, they drain them of all their fluids. They use a vacuum system to take their fluids. They properly dispose of those fluids and they recycle them. And this is, the applicant is for a special permit. We all understand that has a negative connotation. But what you're really talking about here is an environmental company that actually assists the community in many ways. The first of which is it provides engine parts and parts to cars at 75% less than individuals can get them elsewhere. Many people don't have the ability to bring their car to a dealership and have it fixed. So auto mechanics and individuals rely on something of this nature. Given our demographics of the greater Springfield area, it's a perfect marriage. That's the first thing that it does, which is very important for a community. The second thing is they'll come in and take this site. They're going to invest over $3 million, and they will essentially make it an environmentally sound site so that when vehicles are brought in, they're properly drained, put out in the field, parts are taken from, they're crushed, and then subsequently shipped off-site to be recycled for the ferrous metal and other metals. So you're really seeing a whole cycle of recycling. With respect to the type of job creation, this would create 30 jobs for the community. These jobs are vertically integrated jobs in the sense that individuals, these aren't minimum wage jobs. These are jobs that individuals will have an opportunity to come to a company and work for a parent corporation, Schnitzer Steel, which is a $2.4 billion company. The site lends itself very, very good for this use for a number of reasons. Number one, there's easy access to 291 and through two different directions. Number two, there's ease in and out of the site for two different purposes. The one down on Chestnut will service the vehicles when they're brought in. The one on Liberty Street would just be simply for customers traditionally driving cars or small pickup trucks there's an ample parking lot. The other beauty of it is it's a hidden site. It will have if allowed, it would have an 8-foot high opaque fence surrounding it, so that it would be very difficult for anyone to see what's inside. But even if you were to see inside, it would look like a parking lot. The cars are properly aligned. You have a copy of the diagram that was provided. It was also attached to the report from the planning department, which I'll talk about in a moment. Couple things that I think are important to note here is that you did receive a report from the planning department that was not in favor of it. And my understanding, and obviously I don't want to speak for other people, but what I was informed is really from the economic development department that They were concerned about a future plan they have for a residential neighborhood from Appermont Quadrangle down to Lyman Street. And certainly I'm in favor of that. I think this use it can simultaneously exist with any neighborhood that might come in the future, whether it be 5-10 years from now. The concern was that from an aerial perspective, it may not look desirable for someone who may be in a 3rd or 4th story of an apartment building located on the other side of the railroad track, which is elevated, so it provides a natural buffer. And then there'll be the fence before it into the parking lot. Now, there are vehicles that are crushed. They're stacked no higher than 8 feet. They're put in line just like a car parked in that manner. And then when they're picked up in one swoop and they're moved off site. I've provided in the material what we expect to be numbers of cars and clientele. And that's really getting down to the weeds. So I'm happy to entertain those and any questions. I have with me today a number of individuals from Pick and Pull, both locally and from different parts of the nation. Again, this is a national company, which again, I'm excited that they're interested in Springfield. Now, the second issue that I heard from the planning or from the Economic Development Office was that the East Rail system may increase travel, and someone coming to the city may not find that to look down at the most desirable area. I'll reiterate that it's going to look like a parking lot, won't look much different. Any crushed vehicles will be stacked along the railroad fence, which is not visible from there or from beyond the other side, even if you were 3 or 4 stories up. Those are the only 2 issues that I've heard. I think the planning department or the economic development office recognized, and they've been put in the report. I don't think it's a question of the capability of this company. They have 53 of these pick and pull operations operating in the United States. Many are locally here in New England. I've provided some of you the recommendations from some of the communities they're in. They're in Cumberland, Johnston, Rhode Island, they're in Worcester, they're in a number of different local communities. Every community they've been in, I've provided you letters from the fire chiefs, the police department. They're an exemplary corporate citizen, if you will. We can talk about the use of that site. And, I think it's a perfect site for it. And I'm going to, aside from the reason I've told you, for a few other ones. The past use was a tractor trailer store, which visibly, in my view, from an aerial view, is much worse when they're being worked on and utilized. Put that aside for a moment. This is a historic use for this site was a junkyard. This is not a junkyard. And I want to stress that, although we have to request that as a permit because that's the way our zoning bylaws read. But as a practical matter, there is nothing that will be on there longer than approximately 60 days. The vehicles are translated off of there. Now, when we met with the local Liberty Heights Council, we met a number of times. We met on site with principals from the company. There was extensive questions and dialogue. The neighborhood councils voted to support this. And one of the representatives, I believe, will speak, who's the chair of that neighborhood council. There were a couple of conditions that they wanted incorporated if the city council were to deem fit to award this special permit. And we're okay with those, one of which is to create an education program. I provided the chair of that Lower Liberty Heights Council the national program that they will model for the Springfield area, which goes K to 12 and into the community, teaching. Many people don't understand recycling as a business. They don't understand it as a practical aspect to the quality of our life. And it's something that they will implement to work with the Lower Liberty Heights Councils, along with the local Department of Education. The next one is they had some concerns because apparently about tires and mosquitoes. Pick and Pull has never had that at any of their sites, although they have a system that's been in place for quite some time. This is perhaps why they don't accumulate tires. They stack tires sideways, 5 high, no higher than 5 high. They vacuum them out if there's any water, and they're shipped off site where they're again recycled, as is everything that comes from it. They have a safety plan, which is first class, that would be coordinated with both the fire department and water, sewer, DPW. They have a readiness plan, and those are the requests from the city council. I'm just trying to head off any questions and see if I can save people some time. The last one is on the recommendations from the planning department. And as I understand it, the planning, this is not a vote. So I want to be clear to the council of the planning department, or the board, excuse me. They did not vote. This is a direction from the economic development director that comes through the planning department. So it's a little bit different. I don't want it to be misleading, but we have no problem with the conditions that they've requested if this council saw fit to approve it. There are 12 questions. We only have a question with one modification of numbers 9 and 10 as the hours a.operation. And if that could be modified, and that's really just in regards to production, we'd like to see that go from either 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. or 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., either one. There are no concerns regarding noise, sound, anything of that nature. There's a drainage building where the vehicles go in to be drained. The hours of operation is essentially most of the time people just coming on site dismantling parts. That is the extent of what I'd like to present on the front end. Again, I have a number of individuals with me if there are specific questions that can assist me with those. But I thank you for allowing me the opportunity to present.
Thank you, Mr. Pellegrino. At this time, Madam Clerk, I will ask, have we received any testimony from those who are in favor of this special permit?
We have not received testimony, written testimony.
All right, seeing none, have we received testimony for those in opposition?
Mr. President, I believe the president of the Lower Liberty Heights Council was here to speak in favor. I'm not sure. She was raising her hand. I'm not sure if you saw that.
Who is present?
Gladys Rivera.
Gladys, I'll give you the opportunity to.
Good afternoon.
You can please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Gladys Rivera, 45 Vinton Street, Secretary of Lower Liberty Heights Neighborhood Council, along with me is Eduardo Rivera, 45 Vinton Street, Vice President of the Council. So thank you for the opportunity to speak. Just to give you some updates from our council, we've met several times. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So pretty much we met with the company a few times, as well as folks from the company, Schnitzel company as well. We met with the operations director. We had several questions that they were able to address. And basically we do feel, and we took a vote, that it is a good fit for our company. I have to stress the word junkyard. Once you hear it and once we heard it, it was completely different than your traditional junkyard. A pick and pull, if you were able to see and go on their site of all the 53 operations centers around the US, as well as Canada, and as well as Puerto Rico, the face is an auto parts store. Behind the auto parts store, there's the parking lot that has cars where a customer can go and find the parts to rebuild their 1967 Chevy Camaro. So from a community perspective, it will create 30 jobs from the immediate community. They will partner with Lower Liberty Heights so that we can make job opportunities available. Join in some of the cleanup opportunities here in our neighborhood, as well as an educational component. The educational component will be a collaboration between the council and the city as we develop it. And we do have ideas from different educational plans, from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade, and hopefully, opportunities for the youth in our city to be able to see how much this job can take them forward. We're envisioning, if they see this, they can maybe have a job opportunity out in Puerto Rico, Canada, or the other 53 operations throughout the US. We were very adamant about the safety plan. very adamant about the recycling plan, very adamant about their operations, accidents that have happened in their sites. We've done a lot of questions, we've done a lot of Google searches, and based on being a subsidiary of Schnitzel, we do feel it's a good fit for our community. With that being said, I'll give you the vision of Liberty Street. At the top, we have Gordon Park, then we have BHN, which is, you know, the methadone clinic. Then in between, we have Salvation Army. Pick and pull will be right there, meaning we won't be a rehab role. This will be a job opportunity for 30+ people, partnership in the community. Down the end, the old motor vehicle. It is part of the YMCA Sheriff's Department. What is it? The Sheriff's Department, probation, non-violent offenders go there. So we just want something positive in our community. We don't want to be known as the Liberty Street rehab. So we didn't get the opportunity to talk about, you know, the program with the Sheriff's Department, the YMCA, with the probation. Again, this is a residential area. The face of this company looking on Liberty Street, as it was stated, will not be your quote junkyard. It is an auto parts chain. The back part you'll see, as Mr. Pellegrino was saying, will be, you know, the cars, and it is blocked off with high fences that you won't see it. We do have conditions about, you know, being environmentally safe, be part of the readiness plan, be part of the community, and as well as building that educational component that will be beneficial from kindergarten to 12. And Mr. Pellegrino, I really like that plan that you sent. We can build off of that and make, if it's at all possible, build it even further.
So thank you.
So thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, have we received any testimony in opposition?
We have.
All right. I know we have both the recording and I believe written prose. We can begin with the written text first, and then I'll play the audio for the record.
The Sterile Company is opposed to the granting of a special permit to operate a junkyard at the property known as 255 Liberty Street and Southside Liberty Street, purportedly pursuant to the provisions of MGL and the Springfield Zoning Ordinance, Article 4, Table 4-4, Section 12.5, Subsection 2. The grounds for this opposition including the following. 1, the proposed facility would create the prospect of harm to persons residing and working in the area. 2, the proposed facility would hinder the already congested business operations of local business owners, including the Sterile Company. And 3, the petitioner has failed to provide adequate information regarding the impact of the proposed project on businesses and residents in the adjoining and affected areas. Specific objections. I received a letter last Saturday, 3/21, regarding a hearing, 3/29, for a special permit to operate a junkyard directly across from the local historic district that I created with the help and support of the Historic Commission and the approval of the City Council. We are now waiting for approval of the state to submit a request for National Register consideration of the Thomas Waston House, Stable, and Central Storage Warehouse. The letter was the first I had heard of the pick and pull junkyard. I am diametrically opposed to the project. My experience being next to junkyards has been terrible. Some years ago, the city of Springfield granted to Roy's Towing a permit to store cars directly behind my 88 Bernie Ave facility. The result was increased vandalism, robbery, and theft. Liberty Street is a very busy and still has a large residential population. How many cars will be hauled into the yard and to be picked? I envision hundreds of cars coming in for salvage and going out as junk. I imagine that will have a large impact on congestion on the street. There are many other unanswered questions. You may hear that our property is for sale, and that is true. We have too many trucks to keep at Liberty Street and too many employees with difficult parking conditions. The pandemic has been the final blow. We do almost everything virtually. I don't need or really want to sell the property. I would enjoy seeing the project through, but at age 79, I need to plan for my family, and if the right offer comes along, I would probably sell. In summary, I am against what little I know of the plan. It is the wrong business to drop down into the center of the city, and I don't see how it adds to the community. Accidents and disaster. In addition, no information has been provided regarding accidents and/or disasters at similar facilities. Such information should be provided to allow for an informed decision. Environmental impact statement. The record fails to include an environmental impact statement, which should be prepared and approved for the separate facility. Respectfully submitted, Rod R. Sitterly, President of Rogers, Sitterly and Son Incorporated.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. And I am also going to play an audio recording that was received by the City Council's office for, I believe, a pastor who might be in a butter to this property in opposition. So if you could just bear with me, give me 1 second to play this for you all.
My name is Reverend Maria E. Santos, pastor of Bethel Pentecostal Church, 8 Cass Street, Springfield. I am calling in regard to the agenda you have, number 07770-0628. Our church that happens to be in the nearest location at this place. We do not agree with this proposal. The community is improving, a building being remodeled. We start to have a better surrounding with the nicest places for people to live, such as affordable housing. Thank you for listening. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you all. Madam Clerk, have we received any other testimony in opposition?
We have not.
All right, seeing none at this time, I will take any questions or comments from the council. For the petitioner, Councilor Fenton. Councilor Fenton? All right, he might be away. Councilor Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just Attorney Pellegrino, I know you mentioned that you have some of the representatives from the company. Do you mind introducing them to the council?
It is muted.
Yeah, I believe whoever's speaking is muted.
Thank you. I have Colin Kelly, who's Director of Public Affairs. I have Peter Weiss, who is the Operations Director for Pick and Pull. I have Brian McFadden, who's a Senior Project Manager. Carrie Fitzpatrick, a Regional Environmental Manager who oversees operations. And Peter Wold, who's a Site Development Project Engineer. So essentially, we try to bring the different pieces together so that if there were any question I couldn't answer, they could field them.
Thank you for introducing them. Now, just a very quick question. Did you mention, was it 30 something jobs?
The project would create 30 jobs, I omitted saying that Pick and Pull hires from within, meaning once people have a job there, they have an opportunity to progress in the company and to the parent. And this is owned by Schnitzer Steel. So it's 30 jobs. These are good paying, career jobs, not all minimum wage type jobs. Obviously there's lower end ones, but people have an ability to come in without skills, be trained within the company. And at one of the neighborhood meetings, they had someone who was just like that, who happened to be there, who came in at a very low level and worked their way up over many years and now is at a very advanced level.
Thank you, Councilor Ramos. Councilor Davila. You're muted, Councilor.
I'm muted myself now. Thank you, Mr. President. Attorney Pellegrino, thank you for your presentation, sir. I do have some brief questions, if I may. Perhaps, I believe we have Phil still on the line.
Yep.
Hello, Phil. Quick question, Phil. I believe I just read on the agenda that your report says that you can have 700 cars there. Is that going to be parked cars or stacked up cars?
Well, again, I'm not sure if that's directed to me or the petitioner, but the
Either or.
the plan submitted shows that there will be 700 cars in addition to a number of crushed cars that will be stacked elsewhere on the property.
No.
Is
No,
that
that'll
correct,
be-
Attorney Pellegrino?
Yeah, it'll be a total of 700.
Okay, so how, there's gonna be 700 parked cars stacked up, combination?
Those are parked or crushed, not more than that. The diagram we set, which we provided, delineates exactly, and this is what the planning department was, or the economic development department was talking about, that we adhere to the diagram that you have as the package, where they'll be located in rows. They're all spaced widely apart so that people can get, there's plenty of access to them. So they'd be located along that grid that you have. Does that answer your question?
Sort of, so that they are going to be parked.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that correct?
So when the vehicles come in, they could come in a couple different ways, either through a tow truck or on a flatbed. They're taken into the facility, drained, all the environmental contaminated parts are removed from them. Then they're brought out and they're put on little stands in parking spaces so that when people come out, they can access underneath them, around them, and take whatever parts they want from it. When they're at an end life, within 30 to 60 days, that vehicle's taken, brought over, crushed and stacked and put in a parking spot with 7 other stacked cars until they come and picked up and taken out of the site. And that usually happens weekly.
Right. No, I believe I just read in the report from the planning that the stacked cars are not going to be no more than 8 feet high, correct?
That's correct. And the fence, the concept was to keep it below the fence. And I believe that was through our dialogue with the planning department.
Right. And Attorney Pellegrino, you actually brought up another 2 great points that was going to good segue to my other 2
And
questions.
I didn't even intend to.
No, but I think they're obvious to ask, Attorney. And one is traffic. You just said that they're going to be brought in by flatbeds. We all know that that's a very busy street. Did I see anything in terms of a traffic impact submitted with the paperwork? I don't recall seeing
We
that.
didn't submit a traffic impact. We went over that extensively with the neighborhood group. The consumers would come in on Liberty Street. The vehicles to be brought in or to be removed, and it's spelled out in the report, would be coming through the little Chestnut Street. You don't even see the driveway, if you will. It runs parallel to the railroad track, so it would just go right in there and out of there. And that's what I meant by the proximity to 291, so that it's not going through the neighborhood, either the new proposed neighborhood or residential or the Liberty Street residential. It goes straight out to past the YMCA onto 291, so it's less than a quarter mile.
All right. Now, Attorney, and can you talk to me about noise pollution? Because I'm going to be candid with you. I have had nightmares in my own district, Attorney, with noise pollution. And I know it promises the world when they come in, but I do feel that we have an obligation to talk about noise pollution and the peace and quiet of the people that abut that location. What is it going to look like? Is it going to be something loud? What noise pollution look like when you're crushing cars?
Okay. So again, if I just refer you back, I'm sure you all have the diagram. You'll see up in the top left-hand part of the diagram, and I can put it on the screen if you want, if you don't have it, but basically that's where the vehicle gets crushed. It's a very simple, it's open, it comes down. I anticipated this question, so I went through this with the people from Pick and Pull, and we have a grid, and I'm just going to take 1 minute to try to explain it to you, but essentially there is no noise. There should be no noise concern here for the following reasons. They take the decibel levels of a quiet room, and I'm going to do this in my generic way, and it's 0. And then they go through what the level is in a room that has conversation, and they say if you're 1 foot from the room, it would be 55. Think of it, 55 decibels loud. If you go 100 feet, it's 15. I'm sorry, 15. If you go 250 feet, it's 8.9, and then that's down to 1, almost a quiet room. The distance, if you did the math, and I can tell you that I've gone through this, you will not be able to hear this from off the site, anything louder than a very muffled type noise. And I can share this chart, but it goes through a loader. It's 95 decibels and compared to a zero quiet room. Again, it drops down to 52. And as you go further away, it's down to 38. If you follow through this and just try to put it in some type of continuity, and we can provide this and I can have it explained in more detail than my layperson explanation. But what it tells you essentially is that the location of that shredder, which is operations, time operations, would be restricted according to what the planning department or what the report was, that we are very close in what we're asking for, would have no impact whatsoever on residents on the other side of any potential residents on the other side of the railroad tracks, nor anyone on the opposite side of the street. And Counselor, I have shared this with some of the other counselors. I am the largest abutter of any property to this site, meaning the site directly across the street from this site where the consumers would enter is a site that I'm investing currently millions of dollars cleaning the environmental problem. Noise, we would be in closest proximity aside from the former Registry of Motor Vehicles building, and there's a manufacturing building next to it. That's the only two that would be closer. And those are natural barriers because it's a concrete wall where they have manufacturing inside. So there's nominal, I know you hear the promise all the time, but it's just a practical matter.
Right.
This is one crusher. I don't think anybody's raised, including the planning department, noise is an issue because I don't think it's an issue for the site.
Right. I do have one more question, but maybe I can look around later, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Letterman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rafer, thanks for the overview. If we were in the chambers, I'd say welcome back. So I suppose welcome to the virtual chambers. It's a little different.
It is different.
I have a couple of questions for you. I'm interested in understanding the environmental practices of the petitioner. So I understand the business model of folks coming and pulling parts to reuse. Tell me more about what happens after the cars are crushed. Where do they go and what happens to them? And also, what is the practice around the fluids once they're drained? Where do those go?
Okay, so I'm going to do it in reverse order. When the fluids come in, I explained briefly, they're air sucked. All the fluids are air sucked out of the vehicle. They go into holding tanks. Different Freon would be one, gas would be another, diesel would be another. Those are holding tanks that companies come in, they vacuum out, take it off site, and they're all recycled. So all fluids are recycled off site. They're retained, recycled off site. With regards to the metals, once the cars are crushed down, they're taken to essentially a metal recycling site. It could be locally, it could be in Worcester, it could be somewhere, but not on site. So the only thing that occurs on site is just a simple crushing mechanism, which is a very, I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's actually happens extremely quick, and that would be the end of it. With respect to tires, the same things. All tires are removed. They're stacked. They're transported off, and again are recycled. I don't believe I missed any aspect of the vehicle, but I'm sure the people from Pick and Pull will correct me. If I've missed something, by all means, please chime in.
Yeah, I understand they go off and they get recycled. I'm asking, where do they go off to get recycled? What company takes them? Because one of the things we understand about the recycling industry right now is that, it's sort of in chaos because of sort of the way that it has changed in the international market around recyclable materials. So I want to make sure and understand that when these things leave our site in Springfield, if it was to be approved, that they are actually recycled. Don't just end up in another junkyard somewhere.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question. I understand now. Perhaps one of you can let me know where they physically go. I know
maybe I can jump in here. Those vehicles will be transported to our Everett, Mass facility where we run a shredding operation.
All right,
and they will be, I'm sorry?
Could you please state your name and address?
I'm sorry, Colin Kelly, 33 Essex Street, Middleton, Massachusetts. So those will be processed at our own facility in Everett, Massachusetts.
Great. My wife's from Everett. I'm there all the time.
I'm a former elected official from Everett, so we love Everett.
Excellent. And what about the tires?
So those can also be processed through our shredding process as well. 4 tires per vehicle.
Where's your site in Everett?
69 Rover Street. So if you're coming over the bridge where the new Encore Casino is, on the opposite side of the street, there is a mega power plant. We're just behind the power plant, adjacent to the LNG facility. We've been there a little over 60 years.
Got it. And what about the fluids? When those get where do those go? The fluid, gas, diesel.
We have contracts with national vendors that handle our facilities throughout the country.
Great. And where's the closest picket pole?
It would either be Johnston, Rhode Island, or Cumberland, Rhode Island.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Letterman. Councilor Fenton, did you have something left to say?
No, sorry about that.
All right, Councilor Gomez, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. President. Couple observations. That area is where my agency resides. That area, during that corner of the old RMV, and that packing company that we got there, that in the morning is hell to get through because you got at least 5 to 6 trucks trying to unload. It really sometimes we have to wait up to 10 minutes for those trucks to clear the whole street, because they will take the whole street for the traffic to get through. That's one of my concerns. The other concern that I have are this 30 jobs going to be dedicated to the community? And if so, is the secretary of the Lower Liberty Heights still with us? Doesn't look like she is, because
she is. She's still here.
She's still here?
Yes.
My question to her is, have the neighborhood council started a project or a way on how they're going to find these employees within that neighborhood? And if not, can get them all, what's the percentage of those people that we can get in those jobs? Because I've seen this before, and we end up with very little numbers in jobs. And if they're offering us the 30 jobs, I want the whole 30 jobs for the community. And that's an area that I do want to visit and continue to work on, to ensure that we get what is promised to our communities. Thank you.
We absolutely agree. And I think Mr. Colin Kelly, the operations director, when we met on site, we were very adamant about the collaboration, about the job opportunities in the area, and we were going to work on a job fair within the community to bring the majority of those 30 jobs right within the area.
Yep.
And Pellegrino and Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that's you're not wrong. Just if I can make, Mr. President, just one comment to Councilor Gomez. There are up to 30 jobs. Initially, not all 30 could go to the local area because a couple of people have to have experience. So some people come in with experience, but the vast majority of them would go. And the goal is to work with the local community, specifically Liberty Heights Council, that community, and quite frankly, anyone else who's qualified. They want to hire from the area. It makes sense for a whole variety of reasons. So that's absolutely something that we've discussed.
Well, in that area, we have at least quite a few numbers of veterans that I hire. That I house in many of these veterans are without jobs and they need to start jobs. So I'm going to be working on that area myself. With
Exactly
you
what we were thinking about.
in the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Gomez.
Exactly what we were thinking about. We're on the same page, Gomez.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Councilor Whitfield, I will skip to you and then I'll go back to Councilor Davila if he had a final question.
I do have a quick question, if I may,
Wait,
Mr. Go ahead.
Mr. Hill, go back to you. Thank you, Mr. President. I like what Councilor Gomez was saying. We want to make sure the jobs stay in the community, but we also want to make sure the jobs are livable wages and not just minimum wage jobs. Can you speak to that at all?
Yes, I can. I don't have it in front of me, but we did do a range that we provided. They are not minimum wage jobs. Colin, is that something someone could give just an overview of the type of jobs that we have? I know we provided to the Lower Liberty Heights Council. I just don't have it in front of me.
I don't have that with me, Rafer. I'm sorry. Working remotely does take me out of the office. So in my memory is.
Can it just be emailed, some of the information be
Yeah.
emailed to the council and share
I
with us?
can tell you this, Counselor, we went through, there's an operations manager, there's techs in the field, there's a tech who does the crushing. These are all higher scale jobs, not minimum wage jobs. These are people who are using equipment, who understand the fluids. There obviously are some lower end ones, people dealing with customer service, things of that nature, who aren't going to be at the same pay scale. There's a safety director. There's that would give you kind of the type of individual positions that would be there, but I'm happy to follow that up.
Rafer, I thought they were asking for a breakdown by position. If we're looking for the parameters, I would say the entry level is $15 an hour up to a salary of a salaried employee that would be closer to $95,000. So, and that experience goes in that flow of employment.
That range is perfect. And also, would you be interested in hiring nonviolent offenders, since that was mentioned earlier? Not with any major felonies or things like that.
We would be interested in talking to all applicants when that job fair is opened up. We talked to the neighborhood council about that, and we have done that in other parts of the country, so we would not be opposed to something like that.
Thank you. And I just mentioned that because I think it'll be a perfect collaboration, since the sheriff's department does have that program at the YMCA right down the street. That might be a perfect collaboration to reduce recidivism and get those individuals into meaningful employment and the support systems that they need. So I could definitely appreciate that.
Council, that's a great idea. I don't think we've thought of that, and it's something I'm sure my father would be happy about, because I know he started the ones for the juveniles way back in a long time ago, trying to get him into jobs who had records that unfortunately tracked him for a while. But that's certainly something that I know I would support with Pick and Pull, and I know that we talked openly with the Lower Liberty Heights Council about hiring from the community and those type of issues that come up sometimes where some qualified people can't get that chance they need. So I don't think that's going to be an issue for the company.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. Attorney Pellegrino, I have listened to your presentation, a very good presentation, by the way, and you I think you avoided a lot of potential questions. There's two things that are still kind of in my mind, Attorney Pellegrino. And one is the noise. I know that you say that it's going to be quieter and it's going to be like a humming sound, and there's going to be minimal noise. I hear you. I understand you. But that's still on my mind. Also, the traffic issue. Chestnut Street, that area there where Councilor Gomez was describing, where the old YMCA is, that light there, and also the Rotary on Liberty Street, Rotary. Those are two critical points, particularly for ambulances and emergency vehicle going into either Mercy Hospital or Bayside Medical Hospital. And so that's in the back of my mind. I think however, I see the potential with this. And I guess my question is more to Phil, Mr. President, if I may, and also to you, Attorney Pellegrino. What would you consider, what would you do, what would you suggest with a 1-year review approval?
For having it reviewed in a year? I mean, whatever this council deems appropriate. I mean, we're comfortable with our representations. The company has a excellent history. It's been vetted, as you've heard, by the Lower Liberty Heights Council. I provide you letters of recommendation. So we're willing to, go along with what this council needs to have,
Right.
as long as it's reasonable, allows them to operate so they can
Right.
prove themselves.
Right, thank you. Phil, is that something that we could do when you review?
Sure, if the city council wants to put that as a condition, they certainly can.
Okay. Sure, Mr. President, was that something that we could do now or second or the next hearing?
I mean, the hearing is still open next week. So if you'd like to make it at this time or not, or at a later period, after hearing all of the testimony, might be a little bit more appropriate.
I agree with you, Mr. President. I will introduce that at the next meeting after hearing all the testimony. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Attorney Pellegrino.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Letterman.
Thank you, Mr. President. One quick question, one suggestion. Who owns the lot now, the property now?
It got me. I just, Colin, does anybody have that? It's a corporation. I just can't recall their name.
Liberty Street Acquisitions, I believe. Is it Liberty Street Acquisitions LLC?
That's
That's
correct.
the corporation, but I thought you were asking like who the principals. I can't think of the principal's name.
But my question is more so geared towards the petitioner has what, a purchase and sale, so
Yes.
subject to the approval of the special permit.
Yep.
Okay. And then, I think something that would be important is maybe for abutters to better understand the project, because I think that what they've received is a notice, right? It's just a standard notice that says, junkyard special permit. So I think there might need to be some work done for abutters to get the same information that, for example, the Lower Liberty Heights Council has gotten. And I'm not sure exactly who is the appropriate person to facilitate that, but I think that, for example, Mr. Sitterly, who had expressed concerns, and the church, for them to perhaps get some more information on how the proposal actually operates would be, my suggestion between now and the vote.
And I have no issue with that, but just so the record's clear, Mr. Sitterly, who I know well, I purchased his property from at 401 Liberty. We developed that. It was environmentally contaminated property I've been dealing with for 10 years. He knows me well. He has my cell phone number. The first I heard from him was last week. I returned the call immediately. I spoke with him. I offered to answer any questions. I offered to go to the site. I offered any of those things. He said, after listening to you, I just got to think about it. I don't have a problem. I never heard from him again. It was news to me when I just heard that comment a few minutes ago. So I have no problem reaching back out, but it's not that he was denied an opportunity. In fact, I not only offered to bring him to the site and walk him around. And he told me that his, basically he was selling his property. He was told that this would hurt his, the sale value. That was essentially the crux of our conversation.
Okay. Well, I don't need, I don't need a representation of what he thinks. My suggestion is just that perhaps the abutters and anybody who made.
And I have no problem going out to those in the meantime.
Sure. Okay.
All right, thank you, Councilor Letterman. I'm seeing Councilor Ramos, your hand's still up in the queue. Are you okay? Are you all set?
All set.
All right, thank you, Councilor Ramos. Are there any other questions from the council at this time for the petitioner? Again, I'll ask, are there any other questions for the petitioner at this time? Seeing none, can I please entertain a motion to continue this matter as well?
So moved.
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Letterman, seconded by Councilor Allen. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on continuing the special permit?
On continuing a special permit, Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Letterman?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Gomez?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Allen?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Curran?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Ramos?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Brown?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Davila?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Hurst?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Williams?
Yes, the special permit has been continued. Madam
Counselor
Clerk,
Williams, I'm sorry, President Williams, who was the second for the motion?
seconded by Councilor Allen.
Counselor Allen. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. The special permit has been continued. Or is there any other business before the City Council at this time?
There is no further business before the council.
All right, I want to thank you all for joining the call today, and please have a blessed night. And again, because it is National Vietnam Memorial for Veterans, just want to thank those who have served this country and also given their lives sacrifice. For anything correspondence related to the matter, again, we'll have communication if there's any communication that to the council, but I do appreciate everyone's time and attention this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Gomez, for your service, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
And to the Walshes and anyone else
Amen.
that has served to protect us in the country.
President Williams, I don't think you saw my hand up. But not only is our Danny and Gomesindo Vietnam vets served with honor, but Dan Walsh also served as president of this council. So I'd like that to be noted into the record too. And thanks all the Vietnam vets for their service.
Yes.
Thanks to all for their service. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Good night.
Good night.
That's all.
God bless.
Amen.